The candidates appearing before you tonight have chosen to become engaged in the political arena because they care very much about the future of our government and have passionate ideas about how that government should function. Tonight they will share those ideas with you. And finally, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Brian Watt, who will serve as the moderator for this evening's program. As most of you know, Brian is a reporter and commentator for radio station KPCC, which is part of the Southern California Public Radio Network. Brian Watt came to KPCC from Marketplace, where he worked as a producer and occasional host for 3.5 years. He holds degrees in theater from Yale University and the Sorbonne. As a reporter for KPCC, Brian won first place for business and financial coverage in broadcast in 2008 from the Los Angeles Press Club, and honorable mention for the Radio Journalist of the Year that same year. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you Mr. Brian Watt.
Thanks a lot, Albert. One thing that he did not say about me is that I actually reside in both of the districts for which these candidates are presenting themselves. I reside on Walgrove Avenue, which is right there on the line between Venice and Mar Vista. So, like you, my mailbox has been pretty full these last few weeks. Lots of decisions to make, and lots of ground to cover this evening. So, I'm just going to explain exactly how we're going to proceed. We're going to start with the 53rd Assembly District candidates. I will say now that Mitch Ward, the mayor of Manhattan Beach, could not be here tonight because the Manhattan Beach City Council is discussing its budget, making final decisions on its budget, so he couldn't make it. But we're going to proceed, and this is how it's going to work. First, we're going to get a 3-minute opening statement from every candidate. We'll ask each candidate to come to this podium to make that statement. We're going to draw the names at random. Once every candidate has given their opening statement, we'll go back to a brilliantly designed Q&A segment by Albert Olson. Very commendable, well-organized, well-thought-out way of getting through a couple of questions for each candidate, and then we'll move on. So, I'm going to ask for the first name out of the bag that Sharon Commons is going to draw. And the first candidate is Republican Nathan Mintz.
Speaker's a little high. Hi, I'm Nathan Mintz. I'm the Republican nominee. I'm running unopposed, so I'll be here in November. I scared off all my competition early, so I saved a lot of you a lot of landfill waste in your mailboxes. The reason why I'm running is because, frankly, I feel that our state government in so many ways is failing us right now. I've lived in this state my whole life. I've gone through its public schools. I had the blessing to go to one of its finest universities, Stanford, where I got 2 degrees in engineering. I work in El Segundo in the aerospace industry there, and I've had a pretty good run of it. I've had about 4 patents pending in that time for different inventions that I've conceived. I've worked just about every aspect of that job, from integration and test to pretty much everything except for launching space vehicles. I've done flight tests, you name it. What I've discovered in that time is that our state's culture is not conducive to attracting jobs. It's not conducive to keeping business here. And so we need to fundamentally change that, because without a prosperous private sector, the public sector will ultimately fail. We cannot make this state work without private enterprise. And the way that we do that is simple. First off, we have to change the way that we incentivize business in this state. That means repealing the manufacturing tax, the sales tax on manufacturing equipment that currently exists. That's an extra 6 or 7% of the cost of every project, which causes businesses like mine, where I work, Raytheon, to look elsewhere when they choose to put manufacturing plants in a state. I've personally watched as dozens of contracts have chosen to outsource their manufacturing. We need to fix that. Those manufacturing jobs, everyone that we create creates 3 or 4 or 5 additional jobs in order to service that person in manufacturing. It is literally the foundation of the economy, and we need to bring that back. The next thing we need to do is get Sacramento under control. We have a serious addiction in this state to wasteful government spending. And that means making some hard decisions. That means getting the pension situation under control. Because right now, if you follow the study from Stanford University, we're $400 billion underfunded in the next 30 years in order to pay for our pensions. We have to address that problem and tackle it today. Finally, education. We need to get more local control of our schools. We need to empower teachers and administrators so that they actually feel ownership and they feel like they can make a difference again. That's how we're going to fix this state. Again, I realize that there's a lot of choices up here on this stage, but I think that I'm the one that's going to sound the most different out of any of them, and I'm the one that's going to make the most sense. So I ask you for your vote, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
So the next candidate will be Democrat Nick Karno.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the Mar Vista Community Council for putting this on. Many of us have been at this for over a year now. I like to call it the longest job interview process known to mankind. We have all been going door to door. We've all been sending out our mail pieces, which many of you have seen. And we've been holding candidate forums like this and trying to tell you who will be our employer, because that's essentially what your vote is. A vote into who you want to have this job. Which one of us has the best qualifications for this job? Now, as we all know, California is in a really bad way. We're laying off teachers. We're releasing criminals early. About 47,000 criminals are going to be released by succession in the next couple of years. And in this crisis, when all of the candidates here are relatively similar in positions, the question then becomes a question of qualifications in your resume. Where have you spent your time, or where have you worked? You know, for too long we've had political insiders who are out of touch with the day-to-day issues that face most of the people in the district. The best person for the job is going to be someone who has had actual hands-on experience in the very areas that these legislators are going to be writing laws about. Well, I'm here because it's time that we had a legislator with those qualifications. As a local prosecutor, I'm the only candidate who has worked in fighting gang crimes, domestic violence, and vandalism. I've seen firsthand how we can make our neighborhood safer, but also how we can save ourselves millions of dollars by diverting a number of troubled populations into treatment facilities, mentally ill and homeless, and those that are drug addicted, and not treat it like a criminal issue, but as a public health issue. As a former public teacher, I'm the only candidate, aside from Diane, who's actually spent time in our classrooms. And I've seen firsthand how a teacher can change a child's life. And I know what resources that we're going to need in order to provide those education to those kids. The vast majority of the state budget is spent in 2 areas, in criminal justice and in education. So as a prosecutor and a former teacher, I'm the only candidate with real-world experience in both of them. And as a chair of my neighborhood council's environmental committee, as a presenter for Al Gore's Climate Project, I have worked on grassroots environmental advocacy. I know what cost-effective business models we can fund to create a green coast here in the 53rd District. I will take these experiences with me in Sacramento. And I'm not looking there just to fill up space and look for whatever position to run for next. I ask for your vote. Thank you.